I am John Slaughter. To all I am a Confederate, though they may have fallen away. As Southerners, we had a few goals we focused on during the Reconstruction. We wanted our political power back. We wanted our slaves back too. We wanted to keep the blacks poor. We basically wanted our old way of life back. However, those Republicans wanted otherwise with our beautiful states. They wanted blacks to have the same right as whites. Mainly they wanted to punish us for our disobedience to the Union, whatever that crap means. We greatly opposed those Republicans' goals. We set up a few things, to say the least. Some guy, Nathan Forrest, I think, set up a group called the Ku Klux Klan. They fight to strip blacks of the rights they were given in the cursed 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. The 13th Amendment ended slavery. The 14th Amendment offends me. It makes those so-called freedmen citizens, and it makes it so we can't vote until we give a glorified sorry to the Republicans up on Capitol Hill. But the 15th is the worst of all. Now blacks can vote. They took away my workforce, then spit on me, then shoved me down. We had a great reason to be mad. We made the black coats to stop these bandits from robbing us. As to control our workforce, we restricted their movements, put a curfew on them, and we forced them to work or they'd be fined. It was a beautiful system. We chose what they worked as and when they worked. However, the Freedmen's Bureau was made to help the blacks. It gave them clothing, food, and basic medical care, things we didn't want the blacks to have. And worst of all, that bureau helped make work contracts with the blacks, stealing from us! Other than the black codes, as I said before, As I said to Air, a group with good intentions, who wanted to make it so blacks couldn't vote or exercise their new rights. My brother joined it, but he quit because he's a sissy. Didn't like what they did for some odd reason. I am what us Southerners call a redeemer. I helped come up with the literacy tests, poll taxes, all of that helped stop blacks from voting. These combined with the KKK's violence made it so blacks and carpetbaggers pretty much couldn't vote. We were set. In the South, we literally had no money. All of our Confederate notes were worthless. Banks wouldn't give us loans because we had no slaves. Most of us lost our land. We had lost our workforce. Literally, our entire workforce had been stripped from us. All we wanted was our plantation system back so we could start redeveloping the economy. We had to give the blacks contracts, which said they'd work on the plantation for a certain amount of time and get paid a wage. Lots of us didn't have our plantations anymore because when the Union troops came through, they destroyed our plantations. Trying to rebuild agricultural infrastructure and find a workforce consecutively is quite a great feat. Then contracts became void because here in Louisiana, we grow cotton mainly. Since cotton only needs to be worked on for a few months every year, this system didn't fit us, so we developed a system called sharecropping after the contracts fell away. We wanted our slaves back, and since slavery was unconstitutional, we developed a system called sharecropping. Picture this. A planter would give the slave a cabin, land, and the tools that they needed, and they were told to farm that land. They would get half of the profit once the plantation owner sold it. However, us planters paid in credit, so we had to pay for our workers and supplies at the end of the year. Since merchants charged high prices, rarely could we pay off our debts. Yeah. So, sharecroppers were always poor. It was a good system in theory, but not in practice. At the end of the day, we were all poor, but we were climbing up. After 1867, economic improvement began. Sawmills were set up, people baled Spanish moss, and people hunted animals and sold them in markets. Trade centers were established, and small towns began forming around plantations. It was great. Wow. However, a nationwide depression in 1873 halted our growth. The Republican successes were our failures, and vice versa. Our successes. Blacks were still poor, and we gained our political control, having all the southern states become democratic again. We established groups like the KKK to halt the progression of blacks' rights. But then comes our failures. We white plantation owners were poor too now. Our economy is still garbage. Blacks legally had the right to work and they were citizens. Blacks legally had the right to vote and we were Blacks legally had the right to vote and they were citizens. They held political offices, a mockery of our statuses. Blacks then went and established their own churches, which gave them a sense of freedom and made them feel like they belonged in their community, which they didn't. Overall, we suffered from the Reconstructions, and those Northerners and blacks rode on our backs.